So I read this article saying Bovino is said to have mocked a prosecutor's Jewish faith on a call with lawyers. The U.S. Attorney of Minnesota, of course, as you would expect, given how much crap Bovino's had to deal with in Minnesota. So I personally, I don't think that it should be considered a hate crime to mock something that someone chose to believe in. Like, it's not like it's a skin color or a gender or something like that. They chose to believe in that. So is it really fair to say that it's a hate crime exactly? Like, is it a hate crime to mock people who like baseball? Is it a hate crime to mock people who like gangster rap? I mean, where do you draw the line then at this? And so I don't like the concept of it, which isn't to say that I would go around mocking people. I just don't think that it should be considered a hate crime. I mean, you can call it unprofessional, and you could say that someone shouldn't be able to do that in a professional capacity without having repercussions for their job. That's totally reasonable, of course. But what he said here, a little unprofessional. But even if you wanted to consider mocking a religion as a hate crime, I think that what he said here is extremely minimal. So he was on a call where several people with knowledge of the telephone conversation, which took place on January 12th, claimed that he made derisive remarks about the faith of the U.S. Attorney of Minnesota, Daniel N. Rosen. Mr. Rosen is an Orthodox Jew and observes Shabbat, a period of rest between Friday and Saturday nights that often includes refraining from using electronic devices. And Mr. Bovino mockingly called them the chosen people and sarcastically asked if Mr. Rosen understood that Orthodox Jewish criminals don't take weekends off. And oh man, Reddit's just popped off about this, freaking out about him. It's every proof they need, but they never needed any proof anyway. As soon as AOC started mocking Stephen Miller's height, everyone was mocking Bovino's everything. I mean, they mocked literally everything about him, even how tight his shirt was. And they certainly mocked his physical appearance and even stuff that they had to imagine, like in his pants, for instance. So it's it's kind of comical to me in this regard. This particular comment here, this fool doesn't even appreciate that Italian Americans used to be considered an ethnic minority too. Right, so I'm guessing that Bovino's an Italian then, right, of Italian descent, and you're saying that Italian Americans used to be an ethnic minority, and used to be meaning that they're now not, and that you think that Bovino is a negative, a very bad thing for the USA, a completely terrible, awful thing for the USA. So then what about all of the other ethnic minorities whom you are protecting, who will in time no longer be ethnic minorities? Won't they then be just like Bovino, according to your own mindset? Well, moving on with the article, Mr. Rosen had designated the call to a deputy because they were doing Shabbat, and there's no proof of this that I've seen thus far. It's just people who listened in saying that Mr. Bovino complained about Mr. Rosen. So, like, it's basically hearsay from people who have reason to make things up about Bovino anyway, right? And even if they weren't making it up, and I do believe that he would probably say something like that, but at the same time, is this really like a hate crime to say God's chosen people? I mean, the guy was taking time off of work because he chose to believe in a religion, and he chose to say that, well, actually, I don't have to work that day because I'm believing in this religion. Like, it reminds me of comics, comedic shows from when I was younger. I can't remember if it was South Park, Futurama, something. I remember there was some sitcom or something where a black person decided to use Kwanzaa as an excuse to get off of doing a job, and it was just like a pure excuse. And I guess the joke is that, like, well, they don't know what Kwanzaa is, but they know it's a black religion, something or another, and they're not going to ask about it, so they'll just go along with it and just let me off work, and I don't even celebrate Kwanzaa, but I'm going to use it as an excuse anyway. And it is a very irritating thing when you're trying to get something done, and someone says, well, yeah, but I have a prior arrangement with my God, so I can't do it. It's like, well, can you really be employed in your line of work if that's going to be a problem for you? I don't know. I it just rubs me the wrong way, I suppose. Um, Tricia McLaughlin, a spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security, which includes the Border Patrol, did not respond directly to the comments about Mr. Bovino, the questions about his comments anyway, but they did say that instead of focusing on gossip, why don't you focus on something actually important, like the victims of illegal alien crime or the criminals taken out of Minneapolis communities? In a rational, intelligent world, that would be a good response. Unfortunately, we don't live in such a world. We live in a world where humans cannot stand being told what to do, where they cannot stand being told that they are wrong, and where they will simply dig in their heels and double down if you try to suggest to them that they have any fault whatsoever. So here she's done all of that. She's basically parried the question instead of directly answering it or ignoring it. And as a result, her answering in that way is going to be more proof for them because they don't need actual proof. They just need to believe that they have proof, right? So this is their proof, that response. I mean, again, their proof was Bovino's haircut. I legitimately saw Redditors circle jerking the fact that he has that haircut, so that means that he must be all the trigger words. Like, so do like most athletes and pretty much everyone in the military. I guess they're all white supremacists as well. Well, Mr. Rosen, whom I didn't know anything about prior to this article, he declined to comment for the article, and he became the U.S. attorney of Minnesota in October 2025, I guess. And he's kept a low profile, they say. I can only imagine. I would certainly do that too, regardless of what side of the war you're on. But what kind of bothered me is that he said in a interview with Jewish Insider, I guess Insider has a Jewish version, that his primary motivations for seeking his current role was the power it gave him to combat what he called rapid escalation of violent anti-Semitism in the United States. And this really rubs me the wrong way. I mean, he's explicitly stated that he is gaining power, legal and political power, gathering up this power so that he can combat his own definition of anti-Semitism, whatever that may be. Like, giving the guy every benefit of the doubt, he's going after people who are objectively anti-Semitic. And there are people like that. I read a story not long ago about someone around Atlanta, UGA or something, who was literally dressed up as a Nazi, and some girl tried to stop him and another guy from having a bar fight, and she happened to be a Jew, and so he glassed her or something like that. I can't remember exactly what happened, but there are plenty of people like that. The thing is, there are also people who hate everything else. I mean, black, white, male, female, Christian, Jew, it doesn't matter. There's going to be people who hate everything. I don't believe any one thing should get special attention. I definitely don't believe a choice to believe in a religion should get special attention. And even if you were to say that he was only going after people who were truly as bad as it gets, I still have a problem with someone who is religious taking up an office for the sake of protecting their own interests. Just imagine a white guy answering an interview for White Insider and saying, yeah, my primary motivations for seeking out my role as a U.S. attorney was to combat the rapid escalation of violence and anti-white racism. Like, everyone would mock this person, right? Everyone would lose their minds about how ridiculous it is to say something like that, and they would call them a racist for saying it. They would call them a racist for trying to stop racism against white people, because you can't be racist towards white people. I just think it's completely absurd to make such a statement, and it's kind of worrying to me that we have people getting into government specifically to protect their religion, because that's not what government should be. And it's the same thing for any other religion, just to be clear. It's not about being a Jew. It's just that's a really worrying thing to me. And he goes on to say that Jewish history tells us that Jews fare poorly in societies that turn polarized, and where that polarization evolves into factional hatred in the non-Jewish societies within which we live. I think he's probably talking about World War II Germany here, but that is true of anyone, really. It's not about Jews, really. Jewish history tells us that Jews fare poorly when everyone lynches them. And what does any other history say about them faring poorly or not poorly when everyone decides to lynch them? Probably the same thing, right? So that's not really the problem. The problem isn't everyone lynching you. The problem is why that's happening and why it continues to happen. And I'm so flabbergasted by this because the left wing isn't defending, due to all the Israel stuff. The left wing is not defending the Jews anymore. Like they can't bring themselves to do it. You can go to Reddit. I mean, this is just the newest thing where Israel's broken the Gaza ceasefire, and you can click on any link in here, and people will be posting gifs and memes and saying that there was never a ceasefire. Netanyahu actively breaking a ceasefire to murder children and government officials. That's pretty on par with him. I hope he stands at Nuremberg someday. They're all saying these kinds of things about Israel, but they're also saying all of these things about Bovino. So what whose side is the Democrats even on here? I mean, they're calling Bovino a Nazi and therefore the entirety of the American government, but they're also calling Israel a bunch of Nazis. So it goes on to talk about how Bovino's been harassed by people and how he's made detrimental comments towards Democrats, as you would expect. I mean, it's basically he's the face of well, he was the face of ICE anyway. So it was kind of like his job to trash talk the Democrats. So we go on and they're talking about like his coat and stuff, and I've seen all this. They've insulted everything about the guy's coat as well, and he had like a green trench coat, which apparently makes him a Nazi because you're not allowed to wear trench coats. No one else does that except for Nazis, and it's insane to me. Uh, it goes on to talk about Alex Preddy and all of that. Now there is like I'll defend Bovino all day long when they're talking about his hair or his height or whatever crap like that, protecting illegal immigrants. I'll defend him from those accusations, but he did make an absurdly brash comment when it comes to Alex Preddy, where he said, "This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement." I can't defend that statement. I understand wanting to defend your agents, because, that's your job, and I understand wanting to defend, or at least using them as an excuse to defend the citizens around you or whatever. I understand all that, but the guy didn't actually do anything that you could really spin in such a direction. He simply had a firearm and some clips, and that's it. Like, this is a very like egregious statement by him, but I can't defend that. But moving on, they talk about some of his like raids and stuff that he had, and when he was reprimanded by a federal judge. God, I remember Reddit absolutely gooning over that. And here they have Mr. Bovino seen lobbing a tear gas canister into a crowd of people in the Little Village neighborhood of Chicago without warning protesters. Why would you even need to warn protesters? They're all wearing gas masks. Well, the adults are wearing gas masks. The children, their children that they bring to the riots, the children aren't wearing gas masks, specifically so that they can say that ICE attacked children. I mean, you look at any of these streams or whatever, there's so many of them are wearing gas masks. I don't even think that should be legal, really. Like, you're wearing armor, basically, so that you can fight against law enforcement. That's basically what it is. What it boils down to. Yeah, it seems like a waste of a tear gas canister to me. I don't see any problem with that. Well, I just wanted to rant about that. Anyone offended by what Bovino said has skin so thin you can see through it. And like I said, I don't think that it's really hate speech to talk about something that someone's chosen to believe in. Like, no one thinks it's hate speech to call someone a weeaboo. It's hateful. You're hating on them for liking Japanese culture, but it's not really hate speech, really. They have a control over what they're doing. I just think it's ridiculous. Just as ridiculous as Reddit calling Israel Nazi Germany because of their current stuff with Gaza, and yet at the same time getting mad at Bovino for making anti-Semitic comments. Like, how does that make sense? And Rosen as well. I completely disagree with someone attaining power for the explicit purpose of pushing their religion onto a country. That's not good, I don't think, anyway. So that's it, really. Thanks for watching.